Aloha and welcome to this episode of the Hawaii Smooth Jazz Connection. I am your host, Gwendolyn Harris. My guest today is a native of Los Angeles who spent his teen years in Kansas City and now lives in the windy city of Chicago. He is a double threat, meaning he is a phenomenal saxophonist as well as he is an awesome vocalist. He has toured and played with Brian Culberson, Gerald Albright, George Duke, Jonathan Butler, and Jill Scott. This is just to name a few. The list definitely goes on. His latest single, Last Call, is climbing the charts. I am so happy to have him here today. Let's welcome Mr. Marqueal Jordan to the show. Aloha, Marqueal. How are you?
Aloha, aloha. I guess I can say aloha.
Yeah,
I've never been to Hawaii, so it's like, aloha, Gwen. How you doing? Good to
I
see you.
am.
Good to see you again. That's what I'm
Good
talking
to
about.
see you again as well. Now, for the
Absolutely.
viewers, the first time I saw Marquell was back in 2017-18 when he
Yeah.
was playing with Brian Culberson at the Napa Jazz Festival. And
Yes.
he was doing his thing then. Now look at you. Now look at you. Now look at you. It's
Young
like
boy
I'm the
does
proud,
good, right?
like I'm the
Right.
proud mama. Like, look at you now, look
Exactly.
at you now. Now we're going to
Exactly.
get rolling into this. Who or what got you into playing music?
I would have to say my parents, but specifically my father. My father is a frustrated musician. I always say that, but I think if he didn't have three kids by the time he was 22 and wasn't working a assembly job at General Motors in Los Angeles, I think he would have been a musician because his dad was a drummer and a flamenco dancer. So he looked after, he looked up to his father, and then I looked up to my dad, and really my dad played percussion and sang a little bit around the crib, but he had an amazing um, record collection, and that was what
Hmm.
really pulled me into the music. It was listening to the music that I was exposed to as a young kid.
What type of music did you listen to around the house?
Oh man, really everything. Like I would say anything black music, probably from the early 40s up until I would say the 70s or the 80s. I think my dad, when I was a teenager, he stopped buying records.
Hmm.
So that was like the mid 80s, and that was like when rap was coming in and Prince was coming in. And he wasn't really down with that stuff right away, but then he got into it a little bit later. So I would say any music from 1945 to like 1981 was
Mm.
was my thing. So I would listen to like Johnny Mathis and then Ray Charles and then the Jackson 5 and Earth, Wind and Fire and John Coltrane and Eric Dolphy and like all of that stuff. So all of those things are kind of what really kind of got into who I am, and that's why I'm the musician I am today. Really.
Now, I know you play the saxophone, you sing, you have an amazing voice at
Thank you.
that.
Thank you.
Um, what other instruments, if any, do you play?
Um, I'm a percussionist like my father, and I really just learned from watching him, like, because he just played the congas. And then at a certain point, my mom's best friend at the time, I think was like in the late 70s, she was dating this brother by the name of Selden. I can't even remember his last name, but he was a percussionist for Ahmad Jamal, and he had this huge percussion rack, and like he had congas and all these auxiliary percussions and all these kind of things. So when we would go hang out with them, and I was an old soul, but I was a big kid, so I would always want to like gravitate to my parents and do the stuff that they were doing when I was young. So when my mom and my dad would go over to hang out with my mom's best friend, when she was dating this guy, we just was over there and listening to music, and he had his percussion set up, and he let me play, and like it was super cool. So really, percussion, saxophone, and vocals. Like I kind of play piano, but not really. Like I would never play in public. I would write music and arrange and all that kind of stuff,
Uh-huh.
but like playing in public, nah, you don't. I hire great guys to do that. I don't. I wouldn't do that on my own. Not doing that.
Now, this pandemic, and hopefully it's almost over. It looks like we're seeing some light, right?
Yes. Yes.
And before we get to, because I know you played at the Sea Breeze Jazz Festival, so everybody
Yes.
was getting back to that. But
Yeah.
before we get to that,
Hmm.
during the pandemic, what did you do?
Well, I had a really big gig a week before the pandemic. It was at the Tin Pan in it was in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.
Mhm.
And then the very next week, all of the gigs that I had all came off the schedule, like one by one. It was like in an hour, okay, that gig is canceled. Then in 30 minutes, I got another email, that gig is canceled. And then in the next day, I was like, it just kept happening. So there was a moment of panic. But then I got together and I decided that I was going to do like a live stream show, not knowing that everybody was going to be doing the live stream show at the same time. Like we all had the same great idea at the same time. So it just happened to be that first weekend. It was the first weekend where D Nice did his live stream and Michelle Obama was like tuning in. It was that same weekend. Um, and I did that for a couple of months. And then in Chicago where I live, things were kind of we didn't get hit as hard as like New York did or Los Angeles did or some other regions in the world did. Like we actually did pretty well. So like around May and pretty much through the entire summer until like the fall, I was able to work here in town. So it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And I know that it was for like musicians in LA. Like everything was shut down in LA. All the guys that I know in LA, they couldn't do anything, and I felt really, really horrible for those cats. But I was able to work and keep things going, and until the fall, and then we had a big surge of positive COVID and deaths and tragedies and things. So we shut down up until like maybe February, and things started opening up. So for me, it's been rather up and down. Like I was able to make some things happen. I was able to take advantage of some grants and the SBA loans and things of that nature and things that were out there for everybody, really. I was able to be blessed and take advantage of that stuff. And now I'm pretty positioned well to be able to just make things happen as long as everything opens up and people don't start acting crazy and you
Hmm.
know and the rates don't go back up. Like I'm really looking forward to what comes next.
Right. Now, like I said, you were at Seabreeze. Now, Seabreeze to me
Yes.
was sort of like the coming out of all the artists who still attended. How was that feeling getting back into the swing of things, so to speak?
In a word, or in two words, it was great, but it was weird. I mean, and if anybody has been to the Seabreeze Jazz Festival, I know that a bunch of people that are great fans of mine, they've come to Seabreeze year after year after year. I think the fans were excited, the ticket goers were excited to come back. We were excited to play there, but there was also a moment of trepidation, even with the promoters, Mark Carter and his wife as well. They had to take all the precautions that needed to be in place so that no one would get sick, so that no one would possibly be exposed to the virus. But everybody wanted to cut loose. The musicians wanted to cut loose. The artists wanted to cut loose. And the people that didn't want to cut loose, they canceled themselves and they didn't do Seabreeze, which of course I respect that. And for me as an up and coming artist, there was no way that I was going to cancel that. I was designated as the Seabreeze Rising Star in 2020, and then we had to cancel that, and they moved everything to 2021. So once I knew that it was going to happen, it was like, okay, I don't care what happens. I don't care who the band is. I don't care what I got to do. I'm going to be there. And it was a great experience because I think everybody, from the promoter to the fans to the artists to the musicians playing behind the artists, we all appreciated what we were doing, and it felt like a coming out party, which really Seabreeze is really always that. It's the first big outdoor festival that leads into the summer festival season for smooth jazz artists in the United States. So, and it was pretty much just like that. But it just felt weird because like, everybody wanted to cut loose, but people
Right.
were just kind of like it was like people really wanted to cut loose, but they were trying to be cautious and aware of the situation. But it
Mhm.
was still a great experience. It was a great experience.
Awesome. Now,
Yeah.
as I stated in the beginning, you are a phenomenal saxophonist.
Thank
Now,
you.
there's a lot of saxophonists out there. What sets you apart from everyone else?
Two things. One, I think the obvious thing is that I'm also a vocalist.
Mhm.
So that I can do two things that the average instrumentalist can't. I'm not saying like when you talk about someone like Jonathan Butler or Ronnie Laws or George Benson, like those guys can put their axes down and then they can sing and then they could tear the house down. So those are the guys that I look up to. Those are my idols. Those are my heroes. Donny Hathaway as well. Um, but on average, there are guys that can really play their butts off, and there are guys that can really play, sing their butts off, but they can't really do both. And luckily, people think that I can do both. So that's the one thing. I think the other thing is, in comparison to my fellow comrades in the industry, I think I'm more of an old soul. So I am more influenced by and want to get the respect of and want to sound like guys that the average smooth jazz fan or artist may or may not know of. Like I want to sound like Stanley Turrentine. I want to sound like even Grover Washington, which is crazy when you bring up someone like Grover Washington because he's really like the Trojan horse for smooth jazz music. He really is. But there are a lot of people that don't know about Grover like I do. I mean, I'm a little bit longer in the tooth than the average cat. So, like, I know about Grover Washington. I know about Hank Crawford. I know about Dave Sanborn. I know about Stanley Turrentine. I know about John Coltrane and all those guys. And I think that's the difference that I could go back into like the 50s and 60s and even the 40s and have influences that still influence my playing. Like where the average guy that's doing this, they're looking at guys like Kenny G or Kirk Whalum or Gerald Albright, all guys who I love and guys who inspire me. But I'm inspired by the guys that they're inspired by. I think that's the difference.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, you have toured with many artists, and I named just a smidgen of the artists that you have toured and played with. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
if you really want to see his list of artists that he's played with, you need to look up his bio.
Yeah.
But
Just
you
go
have
to website. Go to website. There we go.
and you're going to mention that at the end of the show
Right, right,
too.
right.
You
Go to
have
website.
toured with many artists, one of which is my favorite, Brian Culberson.
Oh yeah.
And I know you toured with him, and I'm pretty sure that must have been a fun time with him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was.
What gigs or gig stands out as being really memorable to you?
One.
Uh oh.
One out of all.
Uh
And
oh.
I had great experiences with Brother Culbertson and like he's a good friend and a great artist and a good mentor. Like really. Like I have to give a shout out to my man Chris Miskell because he badgered Brian into getting me into the gig. And 10 years later it changed my life. And I think it helped Brian for the better. It helped me. And it introduced me to everybody. So I have to give those shouts out. Whenever I do an interview, Chris Miskell, Brian Culberson, number one A, however you want to put it. Those guys I have to show homage and thanks to. But the gig that was the most significant and the greatest gig that I ever did with Brian Culberson, we went to Tokyo and Osaka, Japan in 2009. It was like my second year of the band. And it was Brian Culberson's core band. And Sheldon Reynolds from Earth, Wind, and Fire and Commodore's fame was in Brian's band at the time. But in addition, we had Larry Graham on bass and vocals, and Larry Dunn, the original keyboard player with Earth, Wind, and Fire. And we did like a week. And that was the pinnacle. And we did great things after that, but being able to be on stage with Larry Graham, with someone who inspired music with Sly and the Family Stone, like
Uh huh.
they changed music. So it's like, I'm good. I don't really have to do anything else. I'm good. I'm good. So that was my greatest experience. We had a lot of fun. We we were able to hang out. I was hanging out with Joseph, who was Larry Graham's guitar tech, and we went to Osaka and went to the Osaka Castle. And we had it was a great time musically, socially, just the whole thing. That's the one that sticks out more than anything else.
Now, who would be your dream collaboration if you could collaborate with anyone? Who would it be? Uh-huh.
It's hard. I probably have a list of people, but I would say Michelle Negiacello is high on my list. Herbie Hancock is high on my list. D'Angelo would be on that list. The Roots. Just anybody that makes really good music that you feel from here are the guys and the gals and the artists that I'm really inspired by. That list is long. It's hard for me to really narrow it down. So that's a good list for now. But
For now.
that would change, and I think because like I'm 50 years old.
Mhm.
So like a lot of the people that I'm inspired by are a lot older than I am. Some of them are no longer here. Some of them are still with us. They may or may not perform, and they're in different stages of whether they're going to keep doing this or not doing this. Like Roy Ayers, for example. I would love to play a gig with Roy Ayers, but he's 81 years. He'll be 81 years old in August. So, but if I got the call, I'm there.
You're
That's
there.
I'm there because that is the kind of music that inspires what I do and what I would like to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your albums. You have three albums out right now. Well, one is coming out, right? So
Right.
2013 you did Catalyst.
Yes.
2019 you did Intention and Purpose. And
Hmm.
then you have an upcoming album coming out and it's called All We Have Are Moments, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And your single off of that album entitled Last Call
Hmm.
is coming out. I'm telling you, it's coming up on them charts.
Yeah.
What inspired you to for the name of that song, Last Call?
Last Call was actually it's funny because I work with a great producer. Shout out to my man Chris Big Dog Davis representing Connecticut. Um, he's worked with Marion Meadows. He's worked with Kim Waters, Mesa, Phil Perry. He's just a fun, and he's an artist as well. He has a record and a
Yes.
project out now that's on radio and getting airplay right now. So he sent me this track, and most producers that you work with, they have a dummy title or a title
Mhm.
that they have, and the title for the track originally was called Jazz Vibes. I didn't necessarily like that, but I was just like, okay, I get what he's saying. And when I heard the track, I was like, yeah, this definitely has vibes of more of a jazzy type of vibe. So, but then I started thinking about, okay, what does it mean to me? What does it speak to me? And what it meant to me was like last call at a gig or at when you go out and you're hanging out and you've just seen some great music and you have a great time and the bar says last call.
Yes.
And so at that point this song reminded me of what would be played on the PA or on the iPad or whatever after the show is over, or like maybe an encore, like you done did the killing thing, and then this is the encore song. So that's kind of how I looked at that song, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's like if you're hanging with your homies or guys with the band or friends that you have, or with a female, and you're having a drink and you're just vibing out, like that's the vibe that I got from the song. That's what I
Oh,
got from it. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, can we hear a little bit of Last Call?
Yeah, I think you can hear the whole thing. Let me make
Okay.
sure this thing is working. Yeah, yeah, we
Okay.
good to go.
Okay.
All right, here we go. This is last call.
Wow, I'm definitely feeling that vibe right there.
Yeah, that's
I
what's
am
up. That's what's up.
definitely feeling that vibe.
Thank you, Gwendolyn. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Now, before we do our last call and have to end the show,
I like
I
how you
have
did
a
that.
few more questions for you.
Sure.
What advice would you give to a new artist that's coming into the industry right now?
Um, it's the long-term advice. It probably
Mhm.
won't give you the short-term response and effects and the things that you're looking for. But it's the road that I'm taking, and I think it's the road that everybody should take. Follow your voice. Be true to who you are. Play the music that feels good to you because that's the thing that's going to resonate to the audience. Even if the radio promoters and radio itself does not gravitate to it right away. The thing that's going to set you apart is your voice, your sound, your thing. No one is going to be better at being you than you are. And that is my major number one A advice for anybody. Be yourself, be true to who you are, and do the music that speaks to you, really.
Wow, that is great advice. Now, what things do you have coming up? I know with festivals and stuff coming on the horizon now.
Yes.
What things do you have coming up? And also, where can people go to find your music or find out more about you?
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna do this real quick. I have a show coming up this Friday in Indianapolis, May 21st, at the Jewel Event Center, and that's gonna be a great show. I'm actually able to bring out my band from Chicago for that, so it's gonna be Marqueal Jordan and the Players. That's a good show. And Father's Day weekend week. So June 17th, I'm going to be at St. James in Atlanta. On June 18th, I'm going to be at Perfect Note in Birmingham, Alabama. And on Father's Day, June 20th, I'm going to be at Triple C in Charlotte. So all of those shows, tickets are on sale now. If you need to follow me, find me, get tickets, all of those kinds of things, you can find that on marquealjordan.com. That's Marquealjordan.com. And you can find me at Marqueal Jordan on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook music is or Facebook rather is Marqueal Jordan Music. So those are the places you can find me. Follow me, check me out, send me a DM, I hit you back, all of those good things. Good stuff.
Yes, you heard that. You heard that. I've been following this
Word.
brother since 2017. So follow him because I definitely will be.
Yes.
Marquel, I thank you so much for being here on the show. This has
Thank you,
been a
Gwendolyn.
journey because we've been trying to get you,
But
and
we
now I
got it.
got you. Now I got you.
Timing is everything. Thank you, Gwendolyn. I
Exactly.
appreciate you. I really do. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you to my viewers for watching. Until next time, aloha and God bless.